Say you're feeling kinda lonely. You've never been this far down. And when you need someone to talk to, friends just can't be found. Well, I'm here to tell you, keep your feet firm on the ground, and you'll be standing tall to meet them. When the good times come around.
I firmly believe that young people, if they took time to be around the elderly, they could gain as much knowledge in a different way as they could by going to school. Now, I'm not saying that will replace formal education, no. But a lot of older people could tell you things that will help you in your day-to-day living. Right. And many times that's something that formal education won't do.
We love each other and we allow each other to be themselves. And we don't step on each other too much.
I think one thing that sums up my feelings, it's come from a poem that I read before I ever married and what I was looking for in a husband. And it was, I love you because you ignore the possibility of the fool in me and lay firm hold on the possibility of the good in me. And I think a positive attitude toward each other and commitment is the secret.
Well, I think it begins with we had God in the marriage from the very beginning. It also we were also very committed to the marriage. We were determined to make things work. We worked out problems. We solved problems together. It's been a wonderful journey.
This secret to be married a long time, I think, goes back to when we were married. We made a vow, a promise, and we have kept it. And that, of course, entails a lot more than it sounds like. But I think we've, in addition to what Sue has already said, we maintain respect for each other. We work together to solve our problems, to manage our finances, to stay involved in things that we loved and appreciated together, and at the same time we're able to give each other freedom to be individuals. I think those are some of the things that are involved, not nearly all.
Well, we didn't have videos, we didn't have television. We had to, we just made our own games. We had barn dances, and we had, well, now, when I was a young girl, we used to have a butchering day. Everybody in the neighborhood would have their own butchering day, and all of the neighbors would go to this house, and we'd butcher the pigs and make the sausage, make the lard, and what we used to call Panhaus, which nobody, that's German, but scrapple. They used to make scrapple. I mean, you've probably heard of that, or cornmeal mush. And We made applesauce. We had big kettles out in the yard. You built a fire under them, and you cooked it outdoors. Then you bottled it or canned it or whatever.
When they kill a hog in a neighborhood, everybody in the neighborhood would get a piece of meat. And everybody, when they had corn in the cornfield, and then when your corn run out in the crib, you can go to the next door neighbor house and get some corn. And that's how we hope one another. Anything run out, like sweet potatoes, peanuts, milk, and they milk the cow. The well went dry, you can go to the next door neighbor and get some water. And when your water well run out, see, that's how we come up. And then if you ain't got it, and then if somebody in the neighborhood got sick, then they'll go over and wash the clothes. You had something like it called a rubbo. But now we got washing machine, was about electric. Back then, they had washing machine. Wash them on a rubbo. You know what I'm talking about?
We didn't have to worry about having real fancy clothes to go to church with on Sunday, because God don't care what you come to church in, as long as you come to church. Kids used to go there in their overalls, and clean, as long as it was clean, they just went to church.
Yes, Mr. James Ernst, Mr. Leon Hall, and there was another individual. He's deceased. I can't remember. I think it was Bevel, Reverend James Bevel. Yes, it was Bevel. We went to Selma to put things together for the march, and we went to the home of Mrs. There's a lady down there. Her son is a lawyer. Miss Boynton. That was her name.
That was her name?
Miss Boynton. And she has a son in Selma, Attorney Boynton. Mm-hmm. That's who we spent the night at his mother's home. And the next day, Jose Williams came in, and we told Jose, well, they called Jose and told him we had really put things together in Selma. So Jose came on to Selma, and he was pleased the way we were doing things. So he called Doc, Reverend King, to come to Selma. Doc came in about 3 or 4 days later.
When he called my house, he identified himself as Martin King. Well, he'd been in Montgomery for about a little better than a year. Everybody knew him as Martin Luther King. When he said, "This is Martin King," I had no idea who he was on the phone. And he said that he wanted an organist for his church. Well, at that time, I was engaged to be married. My husband and I had decided that I wouldn't do any more church playing because we knew we were going to keep the 2 incomes going with the teaching. But this sort of appealed to me when he mentioned Dexter Avenue, and they paid a little bit more than where I was playing at the time. And so I decided to do it. But I told him I can't start right away because I'm getting married this Saturday. He said he wanted me to start the first Sunday in June. I said, well, I'm getting married the first Saturday in June, but I'll start that next week. And we sort of cemented the agreement then, and I started playing there. And it was a very interesting, very rewarding experience. He gave me a very fine compliment. He said, you have been enthusiastically recommended as organist. He said, I want to apologize for asking you to serve in a subordinate capacity under someone who has had less musical training than you. But we have this choir director that we like, and we don't want to replace him. We know that the organist is subject to the choir director, but we want to keep him on, and we want you to play the organ.
When the boycott was going on, when the civil rights movement was in full swing, you did not hear too much of black-on-black crime. You heard of blacks going to jail together. You heard them marching together, hand in hand, and you heard them doing things together, but you did not hear them hurting one another. Now, black-on-black crime is running rampant, so there's a lot of difference between then and now, yes.
Well, I think today our young people have so many choices and so many influences that we didn't have when I was growing up. I grew up before television. And all of the influence that television has on kids today. I grew up before, we never heard of anybody on drugs. Maybe teenagers played a little bit with alcohol and smoked a few cigarettes, but beyond that, we didn't have the drug culture that is so prevalent in today's world and touches so many of our young people.
If the family is to succeed, the man and the woman have to be together and work together to rear those children, to instill good basic principles in those children, right from wrong. Right now, many young people, young men I'm speaking of, have about as much respect for human life as they do stepping on a roach. They just as soon kill a human being as step on a roach, and that's wrong.
Well, I tell you, it's certainly very complicated now. I was, to say the least, I tell you, I don't like to say this, but my mother-in-law, she was a wonderful woman, but a very active woman. And when she got cancer of the breast, and she knew her time was coming, and I can remember her saying, now this was maybe 1950, I'm not sure. As I said, I don't remember dates anymore. She said to me, Valerie, I'm not really unhappy leaving this world. And I said, oh, boy, what do you mean? She said, the world isn't getting any better. And I don't know what was happening at that time, but I find myself saying that to myself now, not that I'm still healthy, thank God. Yes, and I find myself saying, it's getting too involved with me. I'm getting too, you hear of Iraq, you hear of Iran, and too many things going on, and not good things, really. Yes, after we had 9/11 happen, and all New York, and that was something unheard of. Something, and it's it's worrisome to say the least.
I don't know. I think we go through stages in life, and there's always been trouble and unhappiness and cheating and just all kinds of things. But I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith in this generation that's coming along now. I have a lot of faith in my own children who are just raising families now. I think they probably have it harder because I think the values are different. Social, a lot different than when I came along. A lot different.
I'd say that we, as a nation, need to turn back to God and to godly principles of living and dealing with each other and handling the conflicts that are among us. I don't see that happening soon because I've said the trend is toward a more secular society and a less religious society. But I do certainly think we're headed in the wrong direction when we put our trust in the materialistic things and not in God.
First thing you need to do is be born again. Right. First step, you ought to see Jesus in your life first. Then everything else will fall in place. What happened, man left God. A man will come back to God. A woman come back to man, then maybe watch all the kids straightened up. Without that, we're going to be like that.
Let me pray.
younger generation, it came from the preceding generation, and the generation before that. It evolved over time to where it was thought that older people really, once they were past a certain age, had nothing really to contribute to society, okay? As a result, and in many instances, like I said, it goes back to that first question you asked, the family. One of the first questions you asked. If the father's not around, then his mother and father are not around. The child suffers, okay? A different viewpoint of life, okay? It all kind of blends in together if you understand what I'm saying. Don't abandon them. Stay with them, because it will profit you in the long run. I honestly believe that. It did me. And I try to make sure that my children never forget that grandma is somebody to be honored, respected, and listened to. Because if you listen to them, they'll give you something that will carry you maybe for the rest of your life.
Be exalted in your strength. Oh Lord, be exalted by your strength.
I did some all kind of work back there. All kind. But all sort of kind of work. Well, otherwise I wasn't on a prison. I just want to tell you how like it is. What that's a prison. That's all I was. A prisoner, Lord. That's all I was, a prisoner. You know talking about? Any kind of work. You had to do this and you had to do that. You know what I'm talking about? We colored people had no kind of help at all. You know what I'm talking about? And to me, it looked like as if you was now.
Everybody, they've had their hard times. And everybody sang the blues. So if you need something to lean on, here's a shoulder you can use. Keep your head above the water. Don't let life's anchor